All right, I'm back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, February 5th, 2024. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts. And I also say on live day trading. Anyways, let's get into it. Today, so markets here, kind of just a nothing burger. So we were down 36 basis points on the spiders. NASDAQ down 56 cents via the QQQ there. And Dow and the Russell definitely in the back seat as per usual. Again, usual suspects today. So markets here, we're a little bit on, we'll say the weaker side, but again, relatively speaking, take a look at yields here. So yields really pushing higher, or I should say, here's the price of bonds versus the NASDAQ, continuing to push up. And it's really just, it's not even the Mag 7 anymore. It's really just four stocks at this point. So right now, and what is driving this too is, I think a lot of it has to do with China, panic buying out of that sector. And we've talked about this before, the Shanghai taking another hit overnight. Hang Seng coming in, although Hang Seng did manage to put in a higher low. But this market here is seeing a lot of inflow into, obviously, 4 or 5 names. By the way, take a look at this chart here. Just NVIDIA, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, right? S&P, Apple, Tesla, and Google. So it's just 4 now. It's only 4 now. And there are, one by one, they're kind of just falling off here. But what's holding it up? I think a lot of it has to do with China. Again, it's not everything, but, you look at some of these stocks, SMCI, another 14% today, but notice how it keeps gapping higher. Even aside from earnings, gap right here. Look at NVIDIA. It's just getting a $5 to $10 gap every morning. Gap. Who's doing all this gapping up? Who's doing all this buying? I think a lot of it's China. Why would I say that? Well, they're paying a 20% premium to get their money out of China and into either Japan or the NASDAQ. It looks like panic buying to me. It looks like capitulation in the Chinese markets. I've talked about this a little bit before. Take a look at the Shanghai here. I mean, yeah, it's still coming down pretty sharply. 6 days in a row. Big tail, big volume. We're seeing signs of this, I think, of capitulation here. Hang Seng, meanwhile, making a higher low. So what am I saying all this for? I think perhaps, again, it's just a theory. We're not going to take any trades based off of this, but I think perhaps if you get China at the bottom, that's when you'll see those Mag 7 or should say Mag 4 stocks finally start to come in, and that's when perhaps we could finally get our correction here. I think China is propping up a lot of this market. Why do I say that? Again, besides what I just said, look at yields. We should be going down, right? TNX up 3.25 today. Take a look at the dollar index, up 52 basis points. That's a huge move for the dollar. It's up 1.5% in the last 2 sessions. So something's keeping this market up here. And I think a lot of that may be to do with China. Again, just a theory. Does it really matter in this grand scheme of things? Not really. But just something to keep an eye on. I will say, and I've said this last week, on Friday when we had that little dump pre-market, we can look at the ES here. With that little dump pre-market, I said this is probably a fake sell. And the reason I could tell that is because SMCI and NVIDIA were still green pre-market. These are my 2 keys here. These are the new Teslas. So these 2 stocks, if they start to fall, that's telling you that risk appetite is starting to wane. Well, these stocks are still up. There's still risk appetite in the market. So I'm certainly using these as clues as to whether or not this market wants to continue higher. Now, I do think we'll get to SPX 5000. Again, we had a little inside day today. I never once for a second thought that we was going to be anything more than that. We actually bought this dip in the trading room earlier. It's just a pullback day after a big surge on Friday. I could even see us getting back down to 49.05 maybe this week for a test on an intraday basis. But I do think it's still just set up and move probably into OPEX week for that 5,000 handle. Will probably appear of that. If by a chance we do fade lower, there's still a ton of support at 4,700. But that's really the levels I'm looking at right now. What would change that? The same thing that I've always said. It's a high volume reversal. And just because we didn't have follow through on this one, that doesn't mean that that's not the signal, right? let's flip over to the spiders because I want to talk to you about that. That's where the volume comes from. That's volume. This is volume, right? Little uptick, engulfing candle, right? So it doesn't mean it has to happen right away, but that's usually the signal. And usually this doesn't fail. It did fail. So that's what I'd be looking for there. But obviously 500 whole round number there for the spiders. 47.90 is your big support level there. On the daily for the triple Qs, I've got a mathematical level at 442, and I think another one at 433.75. So that's not that far away. So that's only like right about here, 434, right in that area. And interesting, the Qs never took out the high. Not that it's that big of a deal. I mean, Tesla did a lot, had a lot to do with that, falling off so hard, as do Google. But then you had Meta kind of offsetting it, Amazon offsetting it a little bit. But Qs not making new highs. But again, watch that 433.75, 434 area. If we get through that, it's up to 442, which is a little bit higher. But those are the levels I've got. And then obviously 413, 410 on the downs, or actually, we'll say 408.71. That was the previous all-time high. That's why I have it in yellow. So anyway, Russell 2000. By the way, breadth was absolutely horrible today. Again, take a look at the advanced decline. 88 advancing. Granted, we were red, so that makes sense. But, even like the NASDAQ 100, only 33 advancing. And that was essentially flat today. So again, breadth terrible. Russell 2000 lost the 50 moving average on a closing basis. You want a higher low here, basically, because you have lower highs already. So if we take out this low, you guys know we're going down to 179, and 197.50 is still held. So we have not been able to get through that. If we get a higher low, we can go up to 200. If you get through that, you can go to 205. That's all I see at the moment. Diamond here can go to 390 right now. A little pullback day. Let's not make too much out of that. Made an all-time high on Friday. SMH, that can go to 200 still, and obviously higher. I'm just saying that as a whole round number. But obviously if NVIDIA holds up, this is going to hold up. Once the semis sell, again, semis, SMH, SMCI, AMD, NVIDIA, once these stocks start to sell, that's where you're going to see more of a bigger pullback, more than just one day, or more than more than 1 week out of 14, right? So it's all about the semis here. And does the market rotate into value if that happens? I don't think it does, but watch those semis. Anyways, IGV a little bit on the weaker side today, down $2.72. And this has been sideways for about 2-3 weeks now. It doesn't really mean much. It's fine still. This can still go to 440 and then to double top if it so wants to. So IGV holding up okay. Transport's down 0.75%. Nothing terrible though. We had that little failure there. It came right back, and it's holding up. I would not want to see a lower high. I would not want to see this pivot taken out. That would not be a good thing there. We'd probably have to go back down to 15.2. And then maybe even lower if we don't hold those moving averages. But right now, the transports are okay. And if you look at the weekly, you just still have a big bullish inside bar here above the moving averages. So the transports are still holding up just fine. All right, interest rates here. So again, I've been saying for a while, I don't see much more downside in yields, not much past 4.1, 4.15 on the 2-year. And look what we did here today. We talked about this pattern. It was speculative last week. It's triggered today. That's an inverse head and shoulder on the 2-year. If you want to target on that, just take it like that. There you go, 4.7. And that coincides with that red bar, 200 moving average, 100 moving average, pivot high, right? So that's where it wants to go. And that's a triggered pattern. 5-year, back above, or say now has higher highs, back above the 50 moving average. You'll have a little bit of a pivot here at 4.3, and then it can go up back up to 4.4. 10-year still hasn't made a new high yet, but it's inching higher. Big level here at 4.32, 4.35. And then through that, it's like 4.5, 4.6. 30, you got a pivot here, obviously, but we now have a higher low to work off of. And once this gets through this, you're looking at 4.7, 4.75. So yield's still acting well. How much longer can this go on for before the market cares? We'll see. Another thing that hasn't been talked about, I'm just going to remember this right now, is dollar yen. I think that wants to go to 150. We'll see if the market cares about that too. But right now, nobody cares. All right, XHB has not done anything. You guys know that nothing's changed there. I'm not going to repeat the same thing over and over. VNQ below this white line, it only counts if it's below by Friday at 4 p.m. Until then, obviously it's got to bid back up. You got the 200 there, a green bar. So we'll see if that can hold up, but you don't want to see that below there at Friday at 4. XLF on the softer side today, down 23 cents. Nothing terrible, though. That's still in an uptrend. It's overbought on the weekly, but that still may want to go up and test $40. KRE had a breakdown last week, but it got saved by pennies, right? So 48.29, that was your weekly green bar low, and we closed above it by 8 cents. So it held on. Below that on Friday 4 p.m. would be bad. KBE below 42.79 Friday 4 p.m. would be bad. But right now they're trying to hold on. And hey, who knows? If that's below all these levels and the banks fail, then just bullish tech again, right? Right? XBD here down 1.64. Nothing terrible there. It's still overbought on the weekly, but it can consolidate and go higher. I still think it eventually comes back down to test 5, though. Oil here holding up. So I did extend this trend line out. I think this one we can just put that back. We don't really need that. In fact, I don't even care about that trend line anymore. This one's the only one that's relevant. We're holding this area. I do think we test 75 again, maybe a little bit higher. But you have a pretty good engulfing candle on the weekly. Now, this hasn't gone anywhere for a while. We had a failure last week, or I should say the week before, and we didn't follow through. So this is just, it's like nobody can get control of this, right? Bulls get control for a week, and then it lasts for a day, and then the bears get control, and then, it's back and forth. Right now, bottom line, we're holding this trend line. Got to get back above 75. You get back above 75, it's in better shape, but you're just going to have a ton of resistance up here at 79, 79.50 or whatever it is, 79.29. But right now it's holding this level, and again, I'll give it the upside bias to 75 change. XLE looks fine. That looks all right. Little pullback pattern. This thing is firm. This can go higher. XOP working on a higher low. Tail candle's okay today. Need follow through tomorrow. Otherwise, it may go down and test double bottom, maybe a slight pierce of double bottom. OIH got down to basically close to double bottom here. I wouldn't rule out a little bit lower here. I did pick up some today. Again, I wouldn't rule out a little bit lower though, but I still think it's really attractive at this level, and took profits on the first time, got back in actually a little bit lower today. So I'd like to see that one get going, obviously. Anyway, CCJ here, little pullback into the 20. That still can go higher. These are fine on the weekly. Nat gas pulling back as well. Did get a really good pop off the lows on volume. It was like 15,000 contracts, I think, within like a half hour. But it is, just kind of hanging in here. I'm in the camp. This probably needs to pierce too. Does it go much lower than that? I don't know. It's kind of like, that's kind of it, right? Like it gets down here and then it doesn't stay down here for very long when it pierces too, but we'll see. I do think it goes and works its way back up into that gap though. Dollar index. So 104.35. We've been talking about that for a long time now. And we overshot it. We actually got up to 104.60. We pierced these pivots and pulled back. Kind of get into a moment of truth here. Does this get rejected? Or can it consolidate? If it can consolidate, it can go higher. If it gets rejected, well, then it gets rejected. And I think you have problems here with the dollar. So you kind of need to get through this area. And you don't have to do it right away, but you kind of want to hold up here because you don't want lower highs here on the weekly. And you definitely don't want to take that out because then you're going to have a lower low with lower highs. But right now, the dollar's holding up. This was a bullish pattern all the way. And we got a big outside move. It's up 1.5% in the last 2 days. We'll see what we get tomorrow. But dollar holding up, dollar getting a good bid. And again, market, no cares. Just buy NVIDIA and SMCI. Gold here down 60 basis points. Again, 2075 is a resistance. Been talking about that for a while. But it's holding up really well considering strong dollar and strong yields. A lot of this geopolitically driven, most likely. A lot of foreign demand too, but it's acting well. Though I still think yields are going to be a problem for the precious metals in the first quarter. That does not mean they're going to crash. It just means that I don't think they're going to really break out here, unless geopolitical stuff gets crazy. But it's holding up even despite strong yields, strong dollar. I think there will be a point where yields and gold go up together. We're not there yet. That's thankfully a little ways away, I think. Silver down 37 cents. That's got to go down here. Again, platinum and palladium both pretty strong, considering, again, yield stellar. Bid pretty hard today, and they're holding up. So again, I don't see a ton of downside for either of those metals here. Copper coming in. Watch this white trend line. If that triggers on a close, that's a head and shoulders. We'll say 30 cents. So that would take you down to, guess where? If you guys been following the channel for long enough, you know it. 340. So that's still marked right here, and we can just draw it out if you want. Not straight, but whatever. So, all right, close enough. So my math wasn't perfect. Anyway, lower, if that triggers. They could also trigger and then fail too. So we'll take it with a grain of salt for now. All right, Bitcoin, nothing's changed. I did pull back a little bit today, but it still technically have a minor little inside bar here. If this rolls over, you got to hold 39.9 on a weekly close. Outside of that, this is fine. And that 20 moving average is catching up to price. And you're starting to separate the 50 and the 200 and the 50 and the 100. That's a sign that the strength of the trend is increasing. So it could always fail, but right now I'm just giving the upside bias, and I'm neutral on it. All right, again, so spiders, SPX, again, finishing, down $1.80 on the spiders, big deal. Trend is up. We probably want 5K. I don't see any problems with today. It just looks like it can base here. And I do think we hold up at least into OPEX right now. But again, watch SMCI, watch NVIDIA. If they start selling off, I think it's going to be hard for this market to hold up unless they decide they want to rotate into IWM. That's really what it's going to come down to. Also, keep an eye on China. I think that's a big story that it's getting a lot of coverage, but it's not getting a lot of coverage for reasons that pertain to U.S. markets, specifically big tech and money flow. So anyways, guys, kind of wrapped up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Talk to you guys all tomorrow.